Hey, welcome to Martin Stories. And I haven't recorded one of these in a little bit, so I have no recollection on what number I'm on. I suspect it's like 9. So let's say Martin Stories 9. And if you haven't heard the other stories, I invite you to check them out and follow. And whenever we upload a new story, you'll get notified. This story, it's timely. Yesterday would have been my father's birthday. And so this story is heavily features my dad. And actually this morning I had a donut, and that may not be a big deal to you, except that I've been trying to be very good about what I eat. And I've lost like 35 pounds. And so I'm trying to stay on that track. And the donuts are definitely not a part of that track, but my dad loved donuts. And he could find donuts kind of anywhere. And and to illustrate that, let me give you this example. He came to visit us. My mom and dad came to visit us when we lived in Indonesia. My son and my wife and I were living there, working at an international school. My folks came to visit. And so we, picked them up at the airport, drove them back. We didn't own a car, but we had borrowed a car for that event, and picked them up, took them back to our place. It was at night when they arrived at our house. But of course, because of time difference and whatever, my dad woke up early, and when he woke up, he decided to take a little walk around the neighborhood. And so when we got up to start the day, I found my dad at our dining table eating donuts. And I knew there were donuts in Indonesia, and we'd had Jeko, which if you've never had a Jeko donut, oh my goodness, they're the best. Like Krispy Kreme pales in comparison to a Jeko donut, and particularly the kind of flavors that they put together. Wow, I can't even describe it. But anyway, this is not a Jeko donut. It was a donut. Fried bread and it was served in a plastic bag with some powdered sugar. And I thought, I've never bought a donut in our little town of Salatiga, Indonesia. I don't know where they came from. And so I was like, Dad, where did you get the donuts? And he's like, at the donut shop right around the corner. There's no donut shop around the corner. He said, no, I walked around. I was out walking in the neighborhood, and the lady's selling donuts. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. I've walked around my neighborhood. I've never seen donuts for sale. And he doesn't speak any Indonesian. He doesn't have any money. How did he get donuts? And this is just classic Babu. We call my dad Babu, which is Swahili for grandfather. And this is classic Babu. Like, he found donuts in Indonesia from a lady, and I don't know how he got them. Many of the stories about my dad, there's some unanswered questions in this story that we never resolved. And sometimes we would laugh and have a great time and share a bite of donuts and just enjoy. And they were good donuts, by the way. But that's not the story I wanted to tell today. The story I wanted to tell today also involved donuts, but it was a different story. We were living in Kenya, and in the car, my mom, dad, sister, and I, and we're going up to Kisumu, actually north of Kisumu, to visit some of missionary friends. And en route, driving through Kisumu, we saw a sign that said "Do not," actually, and we had never seen the sign before. And my dad's initial thought was, donuts. We should check this out. And our thought was, probably not. It's probably not. It's donut. We don't, do not. D-O-N-O-T, do not. Why would that be donuts? It didn't make, that's optimism. And my dad was optimistic. We went on to our meeting, and it wasn't terribly long. It was not an overnight trip. And so later that afternoon, we were headed back to Kisii where we lived, and drove by again. And my dad's like, I'm going to stop and check these out. And we're like, okay, you do that. And it wasn't far off the road. It didn't really impact our trip. And, if it makes dad happy, then go for it. So my dad runs into the do not shop and came out with a bag. And already when he arrived at the car, the brown paper bag was soaked through with grease. So whatever he had found was greasy. And our initial thought was, yuck, like, no. And he pulled out this little square thing that was clearly fried, and was not a familiar look. It was a mandazi, which is a Kenyan donut, which are amazing. Like, mandazis are awesome. This was not a mandazi, and it had a hole in it, like a filled donut in America would have. So it had something in it, which again is just scary, right? We don't know what's in there. And we're like, yeah, go ahead, Dad, you try it. So he tried it, and he's driving, right? So he makes this sound. We can't see his face, but I assume it looks something like, oh, I don't know. My dad will eat almost anything, and he eats some things that are pretty gross from our juvenile perspective. And so if he wasn't elated about it, we weren't signing up for that. So he's like, I got one for everybody. Do you guys want one? And we're like, great sales pitch, but no thanks. And so he's like, okay. And so we drove on back, and it's a couple hour drive from Kisumu to Kisii, or it was then. The roads weren't great. And we just doing our thing. I don't know, my sister was probably reading a book. I'm daydreaming out the window. Whatever you do on these trips, just pass the time. And we are pulling into what we call the compound, or inside the fence into our place. And my dad goes, guys, I'm so sorry. I owe you an apology. I'm like, what? He's like, those donuts were amazing. And again, another classic Babu. The donuts were filled with some kind of cream that apparently was very good. And they were extremely fresh, which explained the grease. Like, he waited there for them to come out of the fryer. So they were perfectly fresh. And our lack of enthusiasm and our lack of belief in his optimism, he thought, look, if you don't want a donut, I'll eat it. So he ate all four and enjoyed all of them, and then felt some guilt. But just one of the funny stories that we like to tell about my dad. And we're starting a new tradition this year, and encourage all of you who knew my dad to enjoy a donut on January 20th in honor of my dad. I will say there's a couple of caveats if you want to really get the Babu experience. Dunking the donut into coffee is preferred. It's better than just eating a donut. You can dunk it in chai. That's a permissible option. And chai would be a heavily milked black tea sweetened with cane sugar. That's kind of the chai option. The coffee option would be equal parts milk, coffee, and sugar. And then you've got a Babu special. And so we encourage friends of the family and others who just want an excuse to eat a donut to share a donut on January 20th in honor of my dad. And if you want to post them on social media, that would be a hoot for all of us. And we'd appreciate it. So that's our Martin story for today. Thank you all for tuning in. And like I said, if you want to hear more Martin stories, check out the playlist somewhere, and then subscribe to the channel, and you'll get notices when we post new stories. And thank you so much.